back to another episode of the 4 Downs podcast, where we cover 4 trending topics in the NFL in 20 minutes or less. Today we'll be coming from you on a Monday due to some familial responsibilities myself and Josh had to handle. And because of that, tonight we are joined by Alex, the president of Chaotically Intolerant. Alex, how you doing tonight?
I'm good. I got a new guy on here. New human being. Holy shit.
If you didn't know, or if you didn't notice, I did cut my hair. I donated about 14 and a half inches of gorgeous red hair to a charity called Wigs for Kids that provides no-cost wigs to children suffering from anything from cancer, alopecia, burn victims, any kids that need it. So hopefully 1 or 2 wigs will come out of my locks and go to somebody who needs it a lot more than me.
And eventually one day there will be multiple clones of you running around here.
That'd be so good. That would be so good if they use it to
I don't need more. I don't need more of me. I wouldn't want clones of myself. I'm good with the one that's here.
I have one in his crib right now, so. Our first topic, as always, is Thursday Night Football, where the Lions handled business at home against a Green Bay Packers team that put up a good fight. I actually picked the Packers to win outright in the Chaotically Intolerant betting pool that Alex posts on Threads and Instagram every week. I just thought that at some point Detroit has to lose one. And the team that I figured had the best chance to knock them off is a team they see multiple times every year, a divisional opponent. But despite the best efforts from the Packers, the Lions pulled this one off. Statistically, sort of an unimpressive game. Jared Goff, 283, 3 touchdowns. But the rushing attack of the Lions was not what I really expected. You had Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery both with 14, 15 carries, 51 yards for Montgomery, 43 yards for Gibbs. Normally, if you can hold that two-headed monster under 100 yards, you have a pretty good chance to take the Lions out. But they found ways to do it differently this week. Jameson Williams with a solid receiving game. Tim Patrick getting in the mix with 2 touchdowns. I think kind of going forward, I don't know who beats the Lions, whether it be in the playoffs or the rest of the regular season. They just find a way to get things done. And, of course, the big story.
The Buffalo Bills will beat the Detroit Lions next week. I'm pretty confident of that after what happened today.
And Detroit. We'll get there. Don't spoil it. We will get there. And that good point. That's going to be kind of the matchup, I think, that gives us a peek into a possible Super Bowl showdown. Those 2 teams, I think, would be my picks to come out of the AFC and NFC respectively.
Over Kansas City?
We'll talk Kansas City in a little bit. I have my reservations about us in the playoffs this year. Now, the biggest moment from this game was the fourth and inches call with, I believe, like 43 seconds left in the game, deciding to run the ball over, kick a game-winning field goal, while it would have given the Packers the ball back with a chance to drive down and kick a field goal. And I really respect the coaching staff making that decision, because I feel like had that gone poorly and cost him the game, Dan Campbell probably would have owned up to it. He seems like a kind of guy who takes responsibility for those calls, even though the smart play would have just been to kick the field goal, give the ball back to the Bears on the 20-yard line, and stop them with 40 seconds or so left on the clock. What's your take on the game as a whole and that call in particular?
I don't think it's as crazy, as people say it was. If you look at the drive chart, I mean, Green Bay had scored on 2 consecutive drives, and the Lions defense was starting to get exhausted. So I still, personally, if I was a head coach, I wouldn't have done it. I would have taken the points, like I always say to do, even with a Detroit Lion offense that is, probably the best in football. Statistically, I think they are the best in football, but overall, it feels like it's almost guaranteed, and they didn't get it on the last time. So if you think about the law of averages, right, because they went for it in the third quarter. Yeah, 1:29 left in the third. They went for it on 4th and 1 from their own 31. law of averages, I guess, in Dan Campbell's mind. It's you don't get it the first time, you're going to get it the second time. Again, I don't think it was the worst. It's not the worst call we've ever seen. It was definitely reckless. It was dumb. It was reckless. But you know what? You're going for the win. You're 11-1 at that point. Maybe you can afford to lose one. This is the one you can afford to lose. But still, it's a Dan Campbell. It's an insane call. It's still an insane call. So I'm not saying that, but I kind of see the reasoning behind it.
I loved it. And when you look at the play after the fact, where Jared Goff stumbles, is able to get the handoff, Montgomery runs it across the first down line. Imagine if Goff had slipped, fumbled the ball, Green Bay recovers it, runs 3 plays, kicks a field goal, and they lose the game. Then Dan Campbell has to answer to the press after the game, why didn't you just kick the field goal? Do you not trust your defense? So on and so forth. So
I think at that point they didn't.
Yeah,
they absolutely didn't. They had good reason not to.
Banged up. That defense has taken a lot of injuries so far.
Did they lose Kirby Joseph in this game too? I thought they lost Kirby Joseph.
I think so. And Alex Anzalone and Aiden Hutchinson for the year. So
Aiden Hutchinson's gone, but I know Kirby Joseph in this game, I think he left.
So maybe they just didn't trust the defense. But whatever it is, it appears to be the right call. They bled a few more seconds off the clock. They're able to kick the field goal and ice the game. So mad respect, Dan Campbell. Maybe starting to be in the discussion for the best coach in the NFL, even over the great Andy Reid. Right now, this season, I'm saying, and in the future, if they win 2 or 3 Super Bowls with this core, who knows? It's a well coached team. And with that, we will move on. Our next topic, since we are recording this on Sunday night during the Chiefs game, as painful as it is for me to miss this Chiefs game on TV, I'll be on it as soon as this is over. I'm going to just read off some of the scores, maybe give my take very briefly. Alex, stop me if there's something you want to add in. I know there were a few games today that were blowouts and some pretty insane upsets. So starting off earlier in the day, 49ers take down the Bears 38-13. Next up, I've got the Rams shockingly taking down the Buffalo Bills 44-42 in a nail-biter.
Yeah, Sean McDermott, is that him? Yeah, there's so many Mick coaches, MC, MAC, whatever. McDermott calling on the goal line, they ran it. You need all 3 timeouts. I don't understand running it with Josh Allen. You have Josh Allen, you run a quarterback sneak hoping you're going to get in, and then you have to burn a timeout. That's why they lost this game. They could have gotten the ball back with 30 seconds, 40 seconds at the end. But instead I don't know. He took a timeout. I was baffled. I was like, what are you doing? You have Josh Allen. Throw the ball. Throw it. If it's in, I feel like this would be basic.
Drop it. Yeah. And if you throw an interception, so be it. Like
and you're on the one. You're on the one. Like, how are you? You can't throw it short, right? Unless you throw it behind the line of scrimmage. And I guess, yeah. But why would you throw it short? And if the play breaks down, get Allen and run the ball in. Then that he extends the play, but don't try and quarterback sneak it when you need to keep your timeouts and every second is gold at that point. That was the most baffling thing I've ever seen. They should have had a chance at the end, and they didn't.
My takeaway from that game is Puka Nacua is all the way back. You see the catch he made on the sideline?
The Rams are just back. The Rams are back.
And still in playoff contention. And in my head, I thought the Rams is a team that are out of it because they haven't made a ton of noise this year. But in a sort of weak NFC outside of the Lions, who knows?
They did it last Detroit.
Year. Yeah, who knows?
They struggled and then found their footing late in the game.
Yeah. So Seahawks take down the Cardinals 30-18. My favorite game of the day, the Dolphins beat the Jets in overtime. Ha 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 ha. Aaron Rodgers.
I wasn't really happy about that one. The Colts playoff chances, I had to root for Aaron Rodgers, as disgusting as it was. And it's depressing. I feel bad for Jets fans. That's a depressing thing to do, have to root for the Jets.
Yeah. And their defense looks like shit after firing Robert Saleh, who was the architect of one of the best defenses in the league, which I've said time and time again was one of the worst calls of the year. But, man, I hate the Jets.
Miami just hanging around.
they could still run the table and sneak into the wild card, which would be mind-boggling. In a shootout, the Jacksonville Jaguars take down the mighty Titans 10-6.
Jaguars playing themselves out of the number one
man.
pick.
No Travis Hunter for you, Trevor Lawrence. So sad, too bad. Eagles in another close game take down the Panthers 22-16. Eagles, a team that just keeps finding ways to win close games they should have won by 15.
Bryce Young is back.
Bryce Young is here.
He's arrived.
He has arrived.
He's here.
He has arrived. The Bucks smashed the Raiders 28-13, a game that was not as close even as the score says. The Bucks looked fairly dominant in that game.
They had to win that one. They had to dominate that one, and that's exactly what they did. Yep.
Even with the mighty Brock Bowers, my favorite player in the NFL, that's not a Chief this year, carrying my fantasy
I think he just tied Sam Laporta or broke Sam Laporta's reception record
wild.
for a rookie.
And he has like four or five games left. He's going to post unbeatable numbers as a rookie tight end. The Vikings behind Sam Darnold's quarterback performance of the year, potentially. 3 touchdowns for Jordan Addison, which effectively eliminated me in my other fantasy league. He had Addison and Sam Darnold. The Falcons sort of exposed as frauds in that game. Russell Wilson, efficient as always, takes down the Cleveland Jameis Winston's.
Hold on, I did want to say something about Falcons, Vikings.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Falcons lose, control the NFC South, and this was the second straight cursed bowl that the Falcons have played in. They played the Chargers last week, cursed franchise versus cursed franchise, and then Falcons Vikings, the Kirk Cousins cursed bowl. The cursed bowl sponsored by Kirk Cousins. If we're getting into college football bowl season, the cursed bowl sponsored by Kirk Cousins.
And then, of course, rounding things out, we have the Saints and the Giants 14-11 to wrap up Sunday's slate so far, with the Chiefs currently holding a 3-point advantage over the Chargers. Our third topic today will be Monday Night Football as we are coming to you on a Sunday night. It will be the 4-8 Cincinnati Bengals going head-to-head with the 5-7 Dallas Cowboys behind the golden arm of Cooper Rush.
Modern-day warrior with a mean stride.
Now, here's my take. This is what's going to happen. Joe Burrow is going to throw for 400 yards, 7 touchdowns, and they are going to lose by 1 point. Because that is the whole story for the Bengals this year.
Is that, I mean, like, that's not even unreasonable to say at this point. I mean, Josh Allen lost with 6 touchdowns today. 6, which is insane. 3 rushing, 3 passing, first quarterback to ever do that. But, yeah, Dallas, this is just another embarrassment. Is the roof going to collapse again in Dallas? Are they going to be blinded by the sun? I mean, they're on a 2-game win streak. Like, they're very quietly kind of in this. Like, they're going to have to run the table, and they're going to need some things to happen. But very quietly, they can go 10-7, which is just insane. That's crazy. But they've had some wins over teams that are not very good. And listen, since he's coming in off 3 straight losses, this is, I mean, I think last week was their season, but this really is like, if shut down Joe Burrow if you lose, basically. Shut him down.
I can't afford that because I have Jamar Chase on my good fantasy team.
He was okay with Jake Browning last year. Wasn't bad.
Yeah, I mean, he could put up numbers. And look, Jamar Chase is in a contract year. So he kind of has to continue to put up the insane numbers he's putting up. The Bengals, in recent memory, is there another quarterback who has had the kind of season Joe Burrow is having and just gotten absolutely shafted by his defense and poor coaching? I can't think this good, I can't think of one.
The first one that comes to mind is the 2008 Chargers, I think.
With Phillip Rivers?
Yeah, they had the number one offense and number one defense in the league, and they had the worst special teams. So
that is so funny. I hate Phillip Rivers.
Oh,
Phillip Rivers.
I love Phil. Uncle Phil.
He's my least favorite football player of all time.
It's Uncle Phil.
I hate him.
Can't hate him. It's Uncle Phil.
I hated him. No, Phillip Rivers, just his attitude, like on the field. One of the things that pissed me off the most about Phillip Rivers, there was a game where the Chiefs and Chargers were playing, and they had just instituted the rule where you cannot take your helmet off on the field, as it was an automatic unsportsmanlike conduct. And after not getting a holding call, Phillip Rivers ripped his helmet off, ran over to the refs, started screaming at them. And I'm saying, throw the flag. It's the new rule. Flag him. They don't flag him. They go on to win that game on that drive. And Phillip Rivers crushed my Chiefs dreams enough times back when we had like Matt Castle and Kevin Cobb as our starting quarterbacks. So I hate him. You mentioned, this is, sorry.
2010 Chargers. Number one ranked offense, number one ranked defense. First team to do so since the 96 Packers who won the Super Bowl.
Yeah. And they didn't make the Chargers didn't make the playoffs.
That's brutal.
But you had interesting things. So tell me about the Simpsons game. What are they doing? Is this going to be on ESPN, or is it like on
this
an alternate broadcast?
I would assume this is gonna be an alternate broadcast because that seems a little crazy, but maybe it's not. But the Simpsons, I'm really upset with ESPN for doing this. There is a very well-known episode of The Simpsons where Homer reveals that the Dallas Cowboys are his favorite childhood team, which makes sense. Team of the 90s, right? And 80s, and basically since the 90s it's been horrible, but before that it made sense. And in the episode he tells this evil billionaire, hey, my dream is to own the Cowboys. And the billionaire says, well, I couldn't get you the Cowboys, but I got you the Denver Broncos. Homer comes out of his house, sees the Broncos just kind of practicing on his field, dropping passes, just looking horrible. And he's like, oh, the Denver Broncos. He's all upset. And Marge says, well, I think the Denver Broncos are pretty good. And he goes, you just don't know football. I mean, why are we doing this with Cowboys and Bengals? Couldn't we wait for Cowboys Broncos at some point to do the Simpsons game? This is just a complete and utter mockery of the Simpsons. And I am disgusted as a massive fan of the Simpsons. So yeah, I'm just really upset. I don't even know if I'll watch this. I'm so upset.
I prefer the SpongeBob broadcast anyway. I'm a SpongeBob guy. So I'd much rather have SpongeBob and Patrick calling the game over Homer and whoever else. So yeah,
I don't even know if they're calling it. I don't know what's going on with this. Maybe they're gonna do like the Toy Story thing where they like play.
That was kind of sweet, actually. It was actually kind of cool.
That was
I
cool.
liked the Toy Story. I tuned in for about a quarter of it.
Too bad it was Jaguars and Vikings
whoever
or
else
something.
They were playing the Falcons.
Not a good
game. This is
Jaguars
Falcons.
Yeah, I think that's what
they had. They had the Bijan Robinson highlights of him running past like all the characters. So it's a neat way to get kids interested in football, I guess. But who knows? We'll see.
Oh, I just wish they picked the right game. That's it. Pick the right game.
I agree. Our last topic today is one that I believe myself and Alex have slightly differing opinions on. It is the hit that is expected to end Trevor Lawrence's season. The Texans, Azeez Al-Shahir.
Not expected. Did end.
Concussion. They called it. He's out for the year? Okay.
Yeah, he's done for the year. They've shut him down.
Might as well. Azeez Al-Shahir hits Trevor Lawrence while sliding for a first down. He is suspended for 3 games as of now. I have seen reports possibly suspending him for the remainder of the year. Yesterday, CBS Sports reports NFL weighing banning Texans linebacker for remainder of regular season. And like off the podcast we were talking before this, obviously we protect the quarterbacks. And when a quarterback slides, you're supposed to just let him go down. Now, the other side of that argument is it's a split-second decision. Shahir is seeing Trevor Lawrence running for a first down. His job is to make sure Trevor Lawrence does not get a first down. And he drops his shoulder as Lawrence is sliding. Obviously, there was probably some malice intent behind it. He knows the rules as well as we do. However, is there a point where maybe it's such an advantage to quarterbacks on the run that it can throw off the balance of the game? If a quarterback knows he's close to a first down, can he slow down his slide for a yard or two? We saw the Kenny Pickett fake slide in college. We saw earlier in the season Patrick Mahomes with what appeared to be a juke out of bounds, stutter step, defender stops, he runs an extra 4 or 5 yards. I see both sides of it. I see defensive players saying, hey, I've got to make sure his body is on the ground before he crossed the first down line. If I am already dropping my shoulder into the hit as he's sliding, I mean, momentum. Just like they talk about with some of the roughing the passer calls, if the hit was caused by momentum, it's not a roughing the passer. If he begins the process of hitting the quarterback after the ball is released and it's not momentum. Is there something to be said for a similar sort of call it as it is or call it on a play-by-play basis and putting that in the hands of the referees on plays like this?
Yeah, I think it should be a judgment call. I don't know. I mean, if you think about it, people don't want, they don't want the game to be in the hands of the ref, right? Like that's the whole thing. So I feel like there needs to be some sort of judgment when it comes to it. Like that was clear. I thought that was pretty late. But you are right about the momentum thing. I mean, these guys are going 100 miles an hour in their minds. They're running. They're going as fast as they can. They want to hit as hard as they can. It's impossible to pull up. That one was pretty gnarly. Like I don't think you can deny that. There's people saying that sliding is it's not baseball. It's not a part of the game. It absolutely is. It has been. Like that's how it's been. Quarterbacks have slid in the past. Like I remember Joe Flacco getting absolutely lit up against Miami. I don't remember who he was playing for. Was it? I think he was playing for the Ravens. It was a Thursday night game. He got lit up. Like concussed. Helmet fell off. There's actually quite a funny picture of him just like sitting there, like you can see the stars in his eyes. But he apologized, which I think was the most important thing. Like just say, hey, I'm sorry, man. Like it is the game. But he did come out after and said like, oh, you want to make me the villain because I delivered the hit. Like, yeah, dude, that's the rule. Like that at the same time, that is the rule of the game. You don't hit the quarterback when he's sliding or you're going to be suspended. We're not making you the villain. Just in that situation, you committed a penalty. That's the penalty. That's the punishment. That's the rule. That's, what you play under. So I don't know. I mean, I think it should be a judgment call because there's times where, the quarterbacks do that fake slide shit and that could get them hurt. But that, I don't think a defensive player should be penalized for that. They shouldn't be hurt because Patrick Mahomes fakes a slide or slows down a little bit, acts like he's going to slide and then takes off. I mean, I wouldn't blame him. I wouldn't blame a defender for that. So it's a tricky line to toe. It's definitely a tricky line to toe.
But yeah, I am going to keep an eye on this. I would be fairly upset if it was a full rest of season suspension. But
no, it shouldn't be that. Absolutely.
And I want to see quarterbacks. I'm a fan of a team that has a good quarterback. I want to see quarterbacks be protected. I also don't want to see my team lose a game because of a defender like in the AFC Championship in 2019 when I forget who our defender, maybe it was Justin Houston at the time, pulled up as Tom Brady was walking into the end zone because the line of scrimmage was at like the half-yard line, and Brady scored a touchdown because one of our guys was afraid to hit him in the backfield at the time. So it is tricky.
What I hate is the rule protecting the quarterback as a runner. Mm-hmm. You are running. You are running. You are a runner. At that point, that's on you, man. You're out there with everyone else. If you're sitting back there and you have the option to pass, I get it. I understand protecting the quarterbacks. I would even go to say if you're out of the pocket, which the pocket, that's kind of a judgment call too. There's no definitive line on the field giving us what the pocket is. But I mean, if you're running out of the pocket, if you give yourself up, if you become a runner, if you cross the line of scrimmage, I think you should be fair game. I think you should be able to be hit like a running back because you're a runner. You're a runner. It doesn't matter your position. Offensive lineman picks up a fumble and runs. He's a runner. There's no other position on the field that gets something like that. So if you cross the line of scrimmage, you should be a runner. There should be no protections on that. The sliding thing, I think if anyone gives them up and they slide, gives themselves up, I feel like there should be some sort of protection for that as well. Because they're giving themselves up. They shouldn't be hurt if they're giving themselves up. But if you're a quarterback and you're running, that's on you, man. Protect yourself.
Player.
Or don't run anymore. Don't run if you can handle it. I'll
stay in the pocket like Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady did the last whole half of their careers.
And listen, like you want to talk about Rodgers, but it got him. He's been in the league, 15, 20 years now?
Forever.
Like he's been in the league forever because of that. Longevity has stayed. Look at Manning. Manning played till his arm was a noodle. So, and I think Manning would tell you that it was probably a noodle in comparison to the past. So stay down. Stay down.
I agree. And that should do it for our episode, guys. Thank you for watching. As always, Alex, thanks for joining us tonight. Go check out chaoticallyintolerant.com, the podcast, the sports blogs. I recently posted 2 articles, baseball articles on the website. Go ahead, check those out. Follow me here on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. I'm also at Blue Sky under Spring Hill Sports Cards. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week.